May 29th, 2013 is a day that I will always remember. That was also a Wednesday. My son had turned 19 the previous evening. He's a musician, so he was having his first gig at a local restaurant in Andheri. So we were celebrating his birthday that way. I was excited, and actually I quite forgot that I had a runny tummy, a little bit of fever the entire day. Who cares? My son was performing. I wanted to celebrate. So I was clapping and I was singing with him and I was dancing. The performance was excellent. Obviously, I will say that. My son's father, also my ex, we have been divorced now for a number of years, but have been cordial. It's called an amicable divorce situation. We were so exhilarated by the performance that we wanted to carry on the party at his house. Much, I might add, against the wishes of my son. He wanted to go to sleep. But we were not listening to any of that, because whoever is a parent here will know that we celebrate our offspring's successes as our own. Don't you think? We make it our own. It's me, it's us. Well, so that's what happened to us, and so we decided to party. The party was in full swing, as parties go, people were in groups, they all usually get into arguments about world affairs, armchair revolutionaries, everything happens in a party. My son, his father, and I, we had our own differences to settle. My daughter had gone to sleep, and we were sitting and chatting amicably on his balcony swing. My ex lives in one of those high-rise buildings in Lokanwala. But even on the 33rd floor of his apartment, that night, the air was still and stifling. It was 2 a.m. I was tired. I wanted to call it a night. So I got up to go inside. I took a couple of steps, and then I fell. Like that, like a piece of crumpled paper. And I was told later that I was unresponsive. My eyes were rolled up and I was hardly breathing. It was like, I knew that I hadn't fainted, because I think when people normally faint, you black out first and then you're really not aware that you fall. But in my case, I fell, I was aware that I fell and I hit my head. But strangely, I had absolutely no pain. And at the time when I was falling, my body was disengaging from itself. I felt I was separating from my body. And I had no idea what was going on. It was like, when you see movies, it was like a slow motion when there's a dramatic scene that's happening, like two lovers are running towards each other, then everything moves into slow motion. It was pretty much like that for me. Now, I was seeing things through my eyes, as well as objectively from a distance. Now, it's hard for me to explain exactly what was going on, but this is the closest that I can come. I can't remember what happened immediately after that, because everything went black. After a while, I found myself in another place, a place that I had never been before. At first I was confused, yet there was no thought as we know it. My confusion was a state of being. And at the cost of confusing you with my confusion, I still can't explain it. This is the closest that I can come. But then I looked around at the landscape. There was a landscape. It was bathed in a soft pink. There were plants, there were trees, there were mountains. and from behind them, a gentle sun was shining through, bathing everything in a warm golden hue. There was no sound, there were no people, there was absolute stillness. Yet, there was this intense and incredible joy that was welling up from within me, undescribable, and the whole environment was enveloped me and engulfing me in it. I had no idea where I was. This was the most beautiful place that I have ever seen, and I wanted to stay there forever. Just then, I heard a lot of chaos, and it seemed to be coming from some distant place. Then I looked down, so to speak, from where I was, and I saw my body lying in the bedroom. My friends and family were rallying around me. They were saying, "Blink, Cheelu, Cheelu, blink, please, please give us some sign of life." At that point, I didn't know what to do. And then I saw my body, my shoulders and my arms reaching skyward. And they said, "Cheelu, please don't go to the light. Please stay with us." And then everything went blank again. This time around, I was inside my body, blinking for them. They were happy that I was blinking. But as for me, I felt no sense of attachment at all to their happiness. For me, it was as good as watching it, on TV or maybe in a movie. I wanted to reach out and tell them that I was happy, that I was peaceful. But even if I did try, they wouldn't have heard me. I couldn't quite understand what was going on here, because I seemed to be in my body one second, out of it in another, and in complete blackness between. There was also a tug of war going on within me. One part of me that was attached to my body wanted to come back to this life, to this body, to be with my friends and my family. But there was the other part which had detached. And there was a voice that said, "It's okay, Cheelu, you can go now. There's nothing more that you need to do." That voice sounded like my own. It was soothing and it was so welcoming. It was not scary or anxious or anything like that. In one particular instance, I remember watching as people struggled to get me down 33 floors to get me to the hospital. My body was as good as dead weight. The part that was attached wanted to wake up and help them, but I listened to the other soothing voice and I simply observed the proceedings. By the time we reached the hospital, tears were rolling down my eyes, and I don't know why. The duty doctor, however, summarily dismissed me as an alcoholic depressive with severe bouts of anxiety. And just because I was crying, he said I was depressed, and therefore he didn't need to do an MRI, a brain scan, or any other investigative procedure. And that was it. I was just on a saline drip. That's it. That's what he gave me. Well, that is how I spent my night in the hospital. I traveled in and out of my body. And by the time it was 9 a.m., I was fully back in this life, in this body, and I was discharged. Now, I have thought about this obviously many times to figure out what was going on. So I decided to look it up. Now, there is ample research done on something called near-death experience, or NDE. In my opinion, we human beings, and scientists and doctors in particular, are very uncomfortable with what we cannot fathom or explain. And so we either dismiss it or hastily label it into something that we do know, even if it only goes in sideways. Scientists have come up with many theories which in effect say there is no such thing as NDE, and that the creation of these experiences could be a malfunction in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. Some others say it could be hallucinations caused by anesthesia or some kind of trauma which produces this bright white light that most people report on seeing. They say that the brain releases endorphins which cause these images to occur so that we can cope with whatever that's going on. There are at least 8 different theories to explain away NDE, but none of them have been conclusive. It is true that most people see a bright white light and or a dark tunnel, a lot of them see their deceased relatives beckoning them with open arms. And after that experience, they come back into this body, and a lot of them are also healed from their afflictions. Things for me, however, didn't come back to normal. And I didn't speak to anyone about this because I didn't know what to say. First of all, I was extremely angry with my family for having brought me back. And on the way from the hospital, I refused to talk to anybody. I was silent the whole way through. But I was still feeling feverish, a little under the weather, niggling. But since it was nothing over the top, I settled down to thinking that it was just a slow recovery phase. Now that was until I saw a vision of my mother, who passed away 12 years before. She just appeared one morning and she was standing in front of this door like this. And this door was emanating this brilliant light. And she had that smile. Now when my mother was alive, she had a specific way of smiling. If she said that, you're not going to have your way, my child. And it was that smile that I recognized on her face that day. Now, I didn't understand why it was there. I couldn't make any sense of it. But the vision was so bright, so vivid, and it was in the line of my fully awake normal sight. Now, I would be resting in the bedroom, and it would be there in the corner of the room. I would be eating at the dining table, and she would be there at the side of my vision. Now, I wanted to go to her. I wanted to, touch her. I felt that if I could reach out, I could do that, but I couldn't reach out. I couldn't go to it. I couldn't ignore it, and I certainly didn't know why she was there. I was longing, I had this longing to be able to touch my mother and, speak to her. But, I at least settled for this, and even though I knew this wasn't real, I just didn't want it to end. Anyway, the vision passed, and after a few days, I was reconciled to the fact that I was going to live, or supposed to live, or something like that. It gradually dawned on me that my mother was blocking the eternal doorway. And I think she said that it was not my time to go, because I feel, and this is what I believe, that if I had gone and seen that incredible light, I don't think I would have come back. Since this happened, I have come to believe that when our lives here is over, we go to a place of being rather than doing. And time, as we know it here, it doesn't exist there. If I can say, it's like meditation times 100, maybe even 1,000,000. There is a feeling of being one with everything and everyone around you. And unconditional love is a real thing rather than just a concept. I would like to quote from a poem that I have written to try and capture the essence of it all. I'll step out. It's called A Continuous Journey. This life is a great big stage. But in the magnitude of the universe, it's merely one page. When it's time, the stage changes, the chapter ends. We have left behind old friends, attachments, and lovers. It is all written in a preordained text. We just move from this life to the next. And so we begin, and so we go on. A new life, a new death, and so on. Our soul merely transcends. It never ends. We are eternal, and we are never gone. Thank you.